Quilt Central, celebrating quilting in everyday living with your hosts Jane Donaldson and Donna Wilder.
One of the first impressions that a visitor has of your home is from the entryway. As you come in, it sets the tone of what they're going to expect throughout the house. Let's take a look at our before picture on Quilt Central. This is the entryway as it was before we started. And now take a look at what has happened since we got our crafty hands onto the entryway. Notice we've added the large floral arrangement over the door. We've created a very lovely embellished piece for the door. And the project we're going to work on today is a wall hanging that we call a button wall hanging. The beauty of this one is that the center area can be changed depending on the season or what you have around to make a center portion. My guest today is going to show us how to do this quilt. Joining me on Quilt Central is Ann Driscoll. Ann is the quilting expert for Fairfield Processing Corporation, maker of polyfill products. Welcome, Ann.
Thank you, Donna. It's a pleasure to be here today. Today I'm so excited to be talking about this quilt. It's a wonderful quilt, and the many options that you have is what makes it so wonderful.
Good. Well, let's take a look at what it looks like here.
Okay. This is the piece that is the center, the focal point. And what I did here was I really chose what I had lying around, Donna. And what makes it so wonderful is that you can do that. You can decide, you can take a piece of what you have lying in your stash or unfinished quilts that you haven't used in a while.
That's a good idea.
Or you can make it more theme, more holiday. Or what I've chosen is Grandmother's Choice. I'm going to show you today how to put that block together, but before I do, I remember back when I was putting this piece together or working on these blocks, it was so hard for me to choose fabric. I don't know if it's hard for you as well. Is to pick fabric. Here I've chosen, and I've laid out what I've picked. I've chosen sort of a focal of marbleized fabric, which I refer to more as a decorative solid.
Exactly.
Okay? When you squint and you're far away, it looks almost like a solid, but you get up close and you see the textures. Okay? Here are the three or other choices that we've chosen here as well, as the borders and the actual focal point of the quilt.
Okay.
Okay? The other thing that's very important are the accessories that are going, as you mentioned, it is a button quilt. Okay? It's very hard to decide what kind of buttons, and we have choices here. We actually went with the rose for the finished product, but we will show you how we do that in another step.
Okay.
Let's start with Grandmother's Choice.
Alrighty.
Okay? Here is the finished block, but how did I get there? These are the different steps that took me there. By piecing together triangles and squares, I got one unit, one component, okay? And actually
they go together.
Exactly, and that is the order in which they go. There are going to be, on one whole strip, two components and then a middle sashing point. So that would go right about there.
Okay.
And then the next component, the next strip we'll use is that, two rectangles and a square between them.
Okay.
And then what happens is you'll have these three components, and then you'll strip piece those three together to get Grandmother's Choice.
See how that looks.
Exactly. You will make 8 of these, okay? And as I said, I use the different marbleized decorative solid type prints for those.
Good.
And then muslin.
So show me how the strips then go together once you get the pieces finished.
Okay. As I said, that one would go there.
And that makes that.
And then we would have a strip in between here like that. And then I will take this away.
Okay.
And then we'll have that. So imagine if I take all that away, then
we end up
with two components out of the 3.
Okay.
Okay, by sewing those together. And then basically what this would be is the same, but
swing it around to that side.
Swing another one around right there.
And how many of those do you make?
Make 8 of those in different colorways. Okay, using the different. Well, that's what I used. Actually, it was an idea for another quilt, but I had these scraps lying around, so I put it together to have the focal point of this quilt.
Good.
Okay, this is how it would finish. And then what I would do is I would take muslin, your solid muslin, and cut actually it into 6-inch strips. Okay. And I'll actually cut one of these out for us. that up, square it off.
And these go in between each one of the blocks then?
Exactly, and there are 7 of these, Donna.
Okay.
Alrighty.
And it's nice too because we'll show you as we get the next step to it, they can do some decorative stitching along in between those areas.
Absolutely.
Let me bring that finished piece up here so we can take a look at it.
So these are going to be our components of the quilt. 15 blocks in all. As I said, 8 of these and 7 of these.
And this is what it starts looking like when you put it together.
Absolutely.
Now you layered this with the backing fabrics.
Again, you want to choose a fabric that either you have in your stash or that would go with the front of the quilt.
Okay.
Okay, and this one we chose that would go with the front of the quilt.
Okay. And what kind of, what are you doing here? Just a lightweight batting on this
A
one?
lightweight, low loft batting.
Okay.
Because actually this is going to be on another quilt, so we want the flatter the better.
Right, and the loft is what determines the kind of puffiness that you get on the piece.
Exactly.
Is that
And
correct?
this particular one is a low loft.
Okay, and you'll notice too, what I like to see is how all of the seams have been pressed, you know, in going in one direction,
Absolutely.
which really helps to keep it flat.
Set pressing.
Set pressing,
Exactly.
good.
And
Good,
it also
good.
helps to hide your stitches on
Yeah.
the forefront of the quilt.
And then you've done some decorative stitching here.
Yes, I have. Just a simple paper template I actually made.
And you put that
You
on.
put it right on the muslin piece, and muslin, a light fabric always, with a contrasting thread always makes it look
Good,
very nice.
Once this is all completed, you've sashed the edges, and then you will finish that up, and you've put buttonholes here. Is that the way?
Yes, I have. And that is when our next components of the quilt come into play. As I said in the beginning, choosing buttons, choosing fabric, it's always such a tough decision to make. We decided to go with these rose buttons. We felt that the contrasting, because of the ground of the green, contrasting rose would be
those
nice.
look nice.
Yes. So they would be attached to the top of the quilt.
And it will just hang like
Exactly.
that. Well, let's show them the quilt itself, too, that it's going to go on. This is, again, when we looked at it, you noticed that beautiful design work around the edges. Well, how did you achieve that secondary color there?
And to layer the background quilt, Donna, what we've done is we've taken the backing print, okay, wrong side up. Then we've put our layer of batting, a low loft again, as we did on the top of the quilt. And then we have put another layer of fabric in between the top and the batting.
Okay.
This is to create the reverse applique look.
And so that's that beautiful feeling that goes all the way around the background.
That's the feeling.
Well, great. Ann, I want to thank you for joining
My
us
pleasure.
today. And we're going to take one last look at that quilt to see that beautiful border all the way around. And we're going to join Jane, who's going to show us today how you can achieve that same look.
The technique that I want to show you today is called reverse applique. Now today I'm going to do it with a long arm machine. And you have just seen this piece in the foyer up there. And what I really wanted to create was I wanted to make a piece that had a button off center, because I always have leftover blocks from projects, so I wanted to be able to button on and button off these little leftover blocks, so I created a border. And I'll show you a little bit about that, because this was my rough draft. This piece here, I sketched it the way I wanted it to fit the wall, leaving the center open because that's where my button on and off piece was. And I always keep my masterpiece so that I can go back and make another one in different colors or for some other reason. Then I sketched one that I could actually do my reverse applique and work with. I take this piece, I pin it right to the top fabric that I'm going to be quilting. And underneath this fabric, I don't know which end you can see from, but I have placed a second piece of fabric. And I have green on the top and this kind of pinky peach color for the second layer, then the batting, and then the backing. So that's my quilt sandwich, as they call it. And I actually have done some stitching in order to get a little ahead of the game here for television, but I'll show you that I stitch exactly right on my lines and peel the paper off. This machine, I love this machine because it has a regulated stitch, so it doesn't matter how fast or slow I go, I can actually keep the same stitch length. But I sew right on the paper, I sew right on the lines, because I am going to tear that off, or I get as close to what the lines as I can, and I try to have a free and easy motion about it so that I'm smooth. Now, I just sewed a little sample there, but I will show you that that is exactly how I can get my little stitching in. And I will bring up my thread and clip it off. And I'll move the machine out of the way so you can see the next step. But you can do this with any machine. Just make your own little pattern and then sew right through. Paper comes off fairly easy if you use a smaller stitch length. Now I just take my pins out and I peel my paper off. And you can see my design on there. And this is the pattern, and I want to show you how I get that color to come right up through there. If you get a little piece of paper caught in there, you can get a little tweezers or you can scratch it out with your fingernail. It comes out fairly easy. And I'll cut away a little bit of this. Oops, get this way, this way. I cut right down the center of the area. And this one I want a little fringed look. There's lots of ways to finish the edges off by adding thread or different kinds of cordings or whatever. But I just get that and I just scratch that up so it frays, and I have that peach color, that pink color coming right up through there. And I think it's a really fast and easy way to get another color in there. I really don't have the time in my schedule to do the handwork. I wish I did because it really is beautiful, but from a distance nobody can tell this is machine, and you can add as much color as you like. If you wanted to change the color, this is kind of a pine cone here, or a flower. And if I wanted it to have several colors in it, I could actually stack up the layers as many as 6 deep, and I could go from having a red end all the way to a soft petal down here at the bottom. So there's lots of things you can do to make the color vary. If you want to get specific about having maybe one curly Q be blue or greener and leaving this pink, you can actually preset the pieces and spray baste them to the back of the top. Then that'll help hold it together so you have your color coming up right where you want. And I am in love with these scrolly patterns and the rose mulling kind of look. So I have done that and it works just wonderful. So I hope you'll give this technique a try because it's speedy, and with the schedules that we keep today, this is the method we will probably all have to convert to. Quilters love to shop for fabric, but it can be one of the most overwhelming things when you're trying to make those fabrics all come together and build a beautiful quilt. So today I have selected some fabrics to give you some helpful hints on just how to make those fabrics blend together. The first group of fabric I'd like to show you today, I selected a starter fabric. Starter fabrics are very colorful. They have lots and lots of color in them, and you can feed other fabrics off of them. From this grouping you can see I went from very dark to very light, but I used quite an arrangement of colors. When you use a starter fabric, you be sure to get that into the main pieces of the patchwork in the middle of the quilt and repeat it somewhere again on the outside edge, either in a border or a binding or a ruffle or prairie points that you might put on the edge. But the starter fabric is very, very important to repeat it more than once in the quilt. On the second grouping of fabric here, I have reds, and I know you quilters build your stashes throughout the year and you select reds and you put them in your stash and you're not quite sure how to make those work together, but I did learn a trick from Mary Ellen Hopkins. She said that it doesn't matter which reds you use or how many of them you do use, you have to add an orange red in. And this is a shocking red. It has orange and bright pink in it. If you add that to this grouping, you will see that it gives it life and spark and seems to draw all those darker reds together. This grouping, it does work together well, even though it has a print in it that's large, small, it has a picnic dot, a plaid, and a regular freckled print. So in this one here is a geometric. It doesn't matter about what is on the fabric for print, as long as they basically show the color red, and you do have that spark of an orange red to set the rest together and set that quilt off. I have another grouping of fabrics here, and this one is what they call adjacent color effect. You select a starter fabric or one that you like the colors of and can feed other colors from. The color that you put next to it has one of the colors in it from the first fabric. The second or third bolt, I should say, has at least one of the colors from the second, and the fourth from the third, and the fifth from the fourth, and so on. And that's how you set your colors together in your quilt, so that one that touches the next always blends. And that's what they do when they make Dresden plates or fan shapes. A lot of the different times those blend together. But I like to throw a dog in every once in a while. And here is the dog. It's a green. Greens blend with almost any florals, but they will give that different look. It sparks the quilt. Another spark for a quilt is always to add a bright yellow, gold, or even a purple. And notions. I would like to talk to you a little bit about the different threads. When you sew a garment, you usually use a thread that's darker, but when you quilt, you buy one that is lighter, because the light quilt thread shows up on top a little bit better, and the beauty of the quilting comes through. Also, if you are stitching with one that's shiny, even an embroidery thread, that makes the beauty of the quilting come forth also. When you quilters make your final selection, just lay that quilt out once. Go with your first instinct. Don't change your mind. Usually first instincts are correct, so stay with it. And if you find after you get the quilt all put together that you don't have the spark you thought you were going to have, you can change it with fabric dyes. They make a cold water dye. You can brush it on, you can spray it on, you can pour it on, you can do anything you want. Or even over dyes of ecru will darken the whole thing and make all the whites work together. So you can heat set that with an iron or throw it in a dryer. Even if you live in a hot area, you can lay it out in the sun and the sun will bake it right in there. So you can change the quilt if you need to. Binding tapes and edges need to be dark for wear, and the inside color needs to come the outside. So have some fun shopping for your fabrics, because that's where all the quilts begin. Earlier today you saw a piece of stained glass in the entryway. I just love stained glass, but making it the old-fashioned way is a little time-consuming for my schedule. So today, joining us is Mary Edwards. She's representing the Warm Company, and she has a fast and easy method to make a piece that looks like stained glass. Hi, Mary.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here today to show you this really cool idea. It's really cool. And what we did...
This is the piece you did for the foyer, isn't it?
Yes.
And it's a design right out of the quilt that's hanging up there.
Yes, it is. I saw that and I just had to be someplace else, like on the door. And what I did is I traced your pattern. Then I refined it and made sure that I could see through it, so I know where to place the fabrics.
Okay.
And then I chose out of this wonderful selection, palette of fabric.
These here that look just like stained glass.
Just gorgeous. And in order to simplify it for TV, I've decided to do a simple 9-patch.
Okay.
And what we're going to be doing is I have the layout, just like on the other.
Okay.
And then what we have here is you press it.
Oh, so you have a pressure-sensitive fusible on here.
Yes.
And then you can just peel this off?
Yes. And it sticks. And you don't have to worry
and
about
if
it
you
going
didn't get
anywhere.
it just right, you could remove it and restick it.
And restick it.
That's really good.
And what you do is place all your pieces exactly where you want them. Of course, again, you can rearrange them. And then you take this
now that's different. I haven't seen that before.
This is used in faux stained glass
leading.
Yes, it's to make it look like you've done all that hard work. And you just would press it that way. And then you would use a permanent adhesive. Spray it really good. And then you have these gorgeous beads all laid out.
Now, are these glass beads?
Yes, they are.
Oh, they're just so sparkly, so beautiful.
Yes, they add the glitter and the...
Oh, is that ever beautiful?
Oh, yes. And then you would take your iron, place your...
Now, do you let this dry just a little bit first?
Just a
so
little
that they get in place?
But, okay.
Oh, and then this is a pressing sheet.
Yes, so that no iron gets damaged and everything.
How long do you have to heat it for?
20 seconds. As I'm speaking about why this is doing that, you can do this to material.
Oh, so you could just cut an already pre-printed something out of a fabric? Or you can color with markers?
Yes. Or you could even...
Or even use your copy machine.
Right.
And just copy that. I see you have some little pieces like this.
Oh, yes.
Let's see how this looks.
I just had to go beyond what I could see.
That is beautiful. Just think what we could do with that.
Oh, yes.
And how fast and easy that would be. You could
true.
do all kinds of holiday designs and everything. Okay. So the jewelry, how did you do that?
Well, again, the pink are done with fabric, and the blues, the star one, is done with, just like you said, using a photocopy.
You know, I love earrings, so I see you've made some earrings there.
Yeah, the same process. You put the fusible there, and then you would peel that off, and then you stick your piece underneath there, peel that. So you have like 3 different layers.
Oh,
so the fusible will stick to the item, and then the beads will stick to the design on top. And you do the 20 seconds.
Okay, wow. These glass beads, I bet they'd be beautiful like on an evening purse.
Oh, yes.
Or any sort of patchwork. And then can you wear them on garments too?
Yes, ma'am,
Because they're permanent, aren't they?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, those are beautiful. And when you hold them up the stained glass, you can see right through them because they're clear. And then can you color these beads too?
Yes, you can. You can use a ceramic paint, and you just follow the instructions because these are glass, so they're paintable.
Well, Mary, this is wonderful. Let's take another look at that piece in the foyer.
Visit the Quilt Central website at www.quiltcentraltv.com for more information on this program.
I had so much fun quilting on that wall hanging.
I really enjoyed seeing that technique of the reverse applique. You did a great job on that. And if you enjoyed seeing that quilting, I know you're going to enjoy next week when our whole show concentrates on quilting.
See you then on Quilt Central.
Funding for Quilt Central has been provided by the American Quilter Society, dedicated to promoting today's quilter. Sulky of America, taking creativity to new heights with decorated threads, stabilizers, and books. Fairfield, maker of polyfill fiber fill, pillow, batting, and foam products. The Warm Company, manufacturers of products especially designed for serious quilters, crafters, and home sewers. Hobby Lobby, America's complete creative center. Blumenthal Lansing Company, America's button source. Quilting Machines International, providing quilting machines and supplies for the world. FreeSpirit Fabrics, quilting fabrics with style.
Hi, I'm Donna Wilder.
And I'm Janie Donaldson. Next time on Quilt Central, we'll decorate our entryway.
We're going to be doing an interchangeable wall hanging that buttons different quilt tops on. We're also making a door decoration that's done with fusible beads. And for all of you quilters out there, you're going to enjoy our trip with Jane to a fabric store.
See you then on Quilt Central.